Hey, 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 what's good, fam? It's Tuesdays with Tawana. What's good? What's going on? What's popping on this Tuesday? Couple of days after daylight savings time. I hope that you are adjusting and resting and trying to get your body to match up to what is happening. So, welcome to Tuesdays with Tawana. I am Dr. Tad Rev T. Tawana, your host and your curator for Tuesdays with Tawana, where we gather once a week to build community one episode at a time. So, it's always an honor and a privilege to spend this 30 minutes with you. This 30 minutes where we just chop it up. And today, we're continuing with uh, Women's Her Story Month. I love Women's Her Story Month because we have an opportunity to honor those who have gone before us, and we have an opportunity to honor those in the here and now through her story. So, yeah, what's up, Jan? Good to see you. Yes, thank you for joining. So, if you are here for the first time, just pop a hello, questions, concerns, feedback in the chat, and I will insert your voice into this narrative because it is not about me talking for the next 30 minutes. It is about us. It is about building community. Whether we agree or disagree, we can still build community. Whether we support or we don't support, or we affirm, or whatever it is, and all that in the middle, we have an opportunity to come together and to build community. So, with that, I want us to get started, and I have a few things. First, some PSAs for us on today. Always check out Dr. Tad, thedrtad.com, the website. Just share it. Information will continue to build as I continue to build and grow. Newsletters will happen, current events will happen, things that are going on that are on our minds and our hearts as women, as beloveds, as community. We will continue to share information and to make things happen for sure. Another quick honorable mention, of course, is I just had a birthday, turned 53, and this shirt represents Dr. Tad with her locks and all that. So, we just gotta do it up. I'm celebrating my 53rd birthday for the remainder of this Pisces season. Yeah, it is well worth it for sure. It is well worth it. So, with that, let's get things started. I'm actually waiting to see if this live is going to pop up on Facebook. Yeah, it has. Awesome. Okay. As long as it's on Facebook, I'm good to go. So today, we're talking about Ain't I a Woman? The Transfiguration. And we're going to go through some things and ask some questions and chop it up about womanism and being a woman in a time where many of us are embracing who we are that seems to be contrary to the norm. It should be the norm. It should be loving and affirming in any and every way, whether you are a woman, femme, part of the LGBTQ plus community, specifically queer, transgendered, non-binary, non-gender conforming, all of that. And as we celebrate Women's Herstory Month, how do we then honor those who may not ascribe to a version of woman that has been ascribed to us from this binary white society, right? Hey, Reverend Marcia. Yes, ma'am. I'm trying to grow up. 53. Yes, yes. Marcia said, yes, I see you wearing lipstick. Yeah. Usually it's the lip gloss for me. But today it was red. It matched the red lips. It matches my red hair and the red hair on my shirt for Dr. Tad. So I figured, I'd chop it up. Yes, have mercy. Have mercy. So today I want to begin with a pretty simple definition, and this was inspired. If you don't watch Pink Robe Chronicles on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock, right on Facebook Live with Dr. Melva Sampson, you are missing out on a sacred space, a space that is for Black beloveds, a space for us to wrestle with whether it's the text, whether it's societal ills, whether it is challenges in our world, whether it's joys and celebration, celebrating one another. Someone, may write a book. We have guests that come on. It's a wealth of information. And several weeks ago, Dr. Melva Sampson talked about transfiguration, and it was so deep, I wouldn't even do it justice in this half an hour together. But hey, look who's here. The Dr. Melva Sampson is in the building on today. Yes, thank you for just your presence, sis. I'm so grateful, so grateful. So yes, your ears must have been burning. Yes, I was just talking about you and how you blessed us when you talked about transfiguration and how I could do it no justice in this moment. But it definitely inspired me as we are in the midst of Women Herstory Month. How do we remain as inclusive as possible as we lift up the stories of those who identify as women and beyond? As many of you know, I am a womanist, so I lift as I climb. I'm not a womanist as another elitist context or ontology or approach. I am a womanist because I love me, I love Black women, I love our Black beloveds, and I want everybody to get free, right? But my focus is on Black women and the Black experience, and it doesn't mean that I degrade or demean or dismiss any other group. So if you would walk with me and journey with me during our moments together on today, is how we can be inclusive and loving and affirming even in the midst of Women Herstory Month, because our stories are intertwined. As the late Honorable Archbishop Desmond Tutu says, my humanity is inextricably bound to yours. So how can I be a womanist? How can I celebrate her story and not include or not invite or not encourage others to then tell their story and insert their story into narratives that often silence us or try to marginalize us or try to oppress us. And we're still here, we're still standing, we're still speaking, we are still speaking truth, we are still divine, we are still honorable, we are still worthy, we are more than enough. All of those things in Women's History Month can transfer and transform into a broader context. So, a simple definition of transfiguration. I know we're in the Lenten season and we're not focused on the religious pretext of the transfiguration, if you will, but a simple definition of transfiguration is a complete change of form or appearance into a more beautiful or spiritual state. So as the title for this moment is Ain't I a Woman, the Transfiguration, what are we called to do to transform our beautiful mind, bodies, and souls into this beautiful form, this beautiful spiritual divine appearance, prowess, how we show up in the world, our beautiful voices, our strong voices, our vulnerable voices, our peaceful voices, our angry voices, our all of those things. How do we incorporate those things and to honor not only ourselves, but to honor those who are around us and in community with us and who have an opportunity to learn about Black women and the Black experience? So in this moment, the Transfiguration, one of the people that I absolutely love is Sojourner Truth. We talk about and we talk about a lot of other beautiful Black beloveds who was and I am because they were, right? Ubuntu. I am because they were, because they freed those who were enslaved, because they started womanist societies, because womanist theology and womanist ethics and womanist eco-womanism, Afrofuturism, and all of the co-creators that we have that were born out of this womanist prowess are co-creators, and I love all of them. They are what I stand upon. I stand on their shoulders, and I just want to highlight Sojourner Truth for a moment because she said a speech back in 18, I think it was 18, we'll get to it. Oh, 1851. So Sojourner Truth was born into slavery in 1797. Isabella Baumfree was her birth name, and she changed her name to Sojourner Truth as she acknowledged her call to preaching and to being an abolitionist, right? Abolishing systems and those things that were degrading and dehumanizing us. And one thing that she said when she left her master, and because her master promised her freedom and then did not uphold his promise, and she's from New York, so I relate to that. She's a preacher and I relate to that. And the master said she ran away, and she was like, no. And I don't know how this conversation happened, so these are just excerpts from different moments and different quotes. But one of the things that she said was, I did not run away. I walked away by daylight. Meaning there was no running. I walked toward the light. I walked in my freedom without fear of what was behind me. I walked toward a freedom that would create a space, I co-created a space for me to speak the truth, to preach when women weren't allowed to preach, and we still deal with that today in 2023. She was able to honor herself and unapologetically show up as a free African American woman. So at this Women's Rights Convention in 1851 in Akron, Ohio, Sojourner Truth delivered what is now recognized as one of the most famous abolitionist and women's rights speeches of in American history, Ain't I a Woman? And of course, it comes with some controversy. Some people say, Ain't I a Woman? That term wasn't included in the original speech, blah, blah, blah. The point is that she is credited for this speech. And I just want to read this very poignant and short speech for this moment to set the tone for us as we move forward on how we can honor those who are around us and still honor our stories in what we are calling and deeming Women's Herstory Month. So at the Women's Rights Convention, she says, well, children, well, there is so much racket, there must be something out of kilter. I think that twixt the Negroes of the South and the women of the North all talking about rights, the white men will be in a fix pretty soon. She even knew how powerful black women were and still are then, back in 1851. But what's all this here talking about? That man over there says that women need to be helped into carriages, lifted over ditches, and have the best place everywhere. Nobody helps me into carriages or over mud puddles or gives me any best place. Ain't I a woman? Look at me, look at my arm. I have plowed and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could head me. Ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man when I could get it, and bear the lash as well. Ain't I a woman? I have borne 13 children, and most sold into slavery. And when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. Ain't I a woman? They talk about this thing in the head. What's this they call it? A member of the audience whispers, intellect. That's it, honey. What's that got to do with women's rights or Negroes' rights? If my cup won't hold but a pint and yours holds a quart, wouldn't you be mean not to let me have a little half measure full? Capitalism, 1%. White supremacy, white power, 1851. Then the little black man there, he says women can't have as much rights as men because Christ wasn't a woman. Where did your Christ come from? Where did your Christ come from? From God and a woman. Man had nothing to do with him. If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, these women ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again. And now they is asking to do it. The men better let them. And now they is asking to do it. The men better let them. Oblige to you for hearing me, and now old Sojourner ain't got nothing more to say. Ain't I a woman? Let's go to the chat. Hey Jules, yes, I'm 53 years young. Thank you very much. Yes. Good morning, Evangelist. Good to see you this morning. Hey, Elaine, hearts to you, baby. Yes, Christina, I'm glad you are here. Yes, one of my favorite. So what I offer today is, during that time, we've had, yes, Ashe, she was speaking in from her context, in her situation and her circumstance, and in that moment I beg the question, ain't I a woman? Ain't I a human? Ain't I to be honored with dignity? Ain't I to be who I be, who I was born to be, as Lucille Clifton says, from Babylon, non-white? Am I these persons, these beloveds, and still calling you out and calling you in to recognize who I am and honor who I am? Because I am, whether it's I identify as a woman, as I prefer to identify as femme, as my pronouns are her, she, they. I don't conform to the binary. I am gender non-conform. Whoever you are and choose to be and show up in this world begs the question, am I ... Hey sis, Natasha Robinson Esquire. We got PRC in the building today. What's up, Nakia? Nakia, my Harlem sister, we grew up together. I love you so much. Yeah, 53 Where. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Dr. Melva says it's the audacity of the question. She transfigured at the point of asking the question. Transfigured into this divine being that the world doesn't think that we are. If you haven't picked up Dr. Baba Daniel Black's book, Black on Black, he talks about this. We've talked about this in Pink Robe Chronicles, where people don't see us as divine. People don't see us as divine and human and co-creatives and spirit-filled and brilliant and beautiful and masterful and all of these things. And how are we still surviving when I tried to shut you down and I am trying to take your voting rights away? I already overturned Roe versus Wade so that you can't make decisions about your body because you're not even a fully human being, let alone divine. And I'm going to take away all of your history and I'm going to erase you from history because your ass just ain't going nowhere. No matter what I do and what I try to do, you are still here, still standing, still speaking, still preaching, still being, still becoming, still overcoming. What must I do? Beloveds, but when are they going to learn? When are they going to learn? You can't kill the divine. No matter how hard you try. So we come together and we have these moments of building community, because when we are separate, it does give them an opportunity to then attack and pieces, right? Taking away brick by brick. But when we come together and we are a full institution, we are a full body, we are a full community, it's very hard to take one brick without other people standing there holding up the rest of the structure. So Ain't I a Woman affirms who I am and how I choose to show up in this world. And how I show up in this world unapologetically, authentically, with all of my power and my divine prowess, defining myself for myself, because I will not let you crunch me into your fantasy and eat me alive, your fantasy of fetishizing me or over hypersexualizing me or demeaning me to less pay or telling me that I can't be the CEO of an organization. The list goes on and on and on, and we will continue to come together, Ain't I a Woman, and fight for our rights and fight for our humanity and fight to be a community and to stop all of the redlining and the forced ways of living in impoverished communities and taking books out of our school and not funding our schools, and the list goes on and on. We've got to know that we know that we know that ain't I a woman, which comes with this divine prowess when we look at it at this transfiguration. When we speak truth to power, it is a transfiguration. When I say that I am a transgendered woman, it is a transfiguration. When I say that I can lead this all-white male company as the CEO, it is a transfiguration. When I lead a nonprofit or start my own business or start a virtual hush harbor for protected Black beloveds, a sacred space, that is the transfiguration. When I am now on TV and I am creating things that'll build wealth, generational wealth, that is the transfiguration. So let us not get stuck on just am I a woman, but am I a woman for those who identify in the full scale of womanism and move beyond what the world does as either or, man or woman, male or female. I personally don't like to be described as my genitals. I prefer to be referred to as a full human being, and I identify as a woman, and I speak from my context, building an example for those who do not identify as a woman and they identify different from me, which is okay. Different does not mean bad. Different does not mean that we have to dismiss it. Different does not mean that I have to argue against it. Different does not mean that I have to build laws against it. Different means different, period, full stop. And we can still build community in the midst of difference. That's the beauty of being made in the image and likeness of God, or the Most High, or Allah, or the spiritual being, or the universe. We are all created in the image and likeness. So how can I be created as a woman in the image and likeness, and my trans beloved created in the image and likeness, and we are different, yet we are the same? So in that transfiguration, ain't I a woman? It's really coming forth during these times and building community so that we can stop the nonsense of those trying to govern our bodies, to tell us that I must be married to a man, or we must be married to have children and protect the white way of doing things because it's either or. But we're a both and type of people. We are a communal type of people. We have been a communal type of people before we were forced to come to these shores. We had community and tribes and villages and our language and our spiritual prowess, and we can tap back, have that same Kofa moment, and go back and bring that back with us, where we do not have to conform to the white way of doing things. And when I say the white way of doing things, it doesn't necessarily mean the white skin. It is definitely a white thought. When we talk about white supremacy, when we talk about white power, it doesn't mean it's only white people, because I sound like what we tell white people, don't say, I have a Black friend, but I got white co-conspirators that are ride or die, that will insert my name and insert my being, my humanity into a space when someone tries to erase me. So it is a thought. It is about how you show up in the world, how you degrade and demean Black people, and you can look just like me and still be a white supremacist and have white power and think you are a part of the 1%. But as soon as you stop giving them more power, the sooner they're going to kick your ass to the curb, because you are not them. You are too dark for them. You have the 3/5 rule where, a part of you is Black, then you are Black. Don't get it twisted. Because if they didn't think that way, then there would be a lot of things happening right now that would speak life into our situation and circumstance. It would encourage our young people to think critically and to show up critically and to be their authentic selves and to love one another and to read about the heinous history. But because you are ashamed of those that came before you, I won't even call them ancestors, because in my world, ancestors have done some justice, have added imparted some goodness and divinity into this world and now continue to go on to do the same. So those white people that have gone before you, who were slave masters, who then brought on black folk and Portuguese folk and Dutch folk and whomever else, when the money talks, all of a sudden they're on that side. But see, today I don't have a choice, and I don't want to have a choice, because I want to be righteous and I want to be transfigured. I want to be beautiful and divine. I want to transform into what God has for me and what God has assigned me to do, to be, and to become. And I offer that to you today, however you identify, you show up in your authentic self. And you know what, beloved? If I don't get it right, know that I love you and call me in and say, this is what I do. So if I refer to myself, or if I say, ain't I a woman, it is not to disrespect or disregard anyone else. It is from my context and encouraging you to speak the language in your context, so we can have this curiosity about each other and we can learn from each other, so that you can comfortably call me a woman and I can call you by your name, by your pronoun, by how you choose to show up in this world, with all love, honor, and support. Hey, Jill. Yes, you can't kill the divine. You can't kill the divine. Oh, yes, we bring our Audre Lorde into this conversation for show, for show. Dr. Melva said, name yourself for yourself, radical subjectivity. Hey, Brittany. Imagine believing in God, that we are all created in the image and likeness, and then dismiss someone who is what God made me. Love you. I love you too. Oh, I love you too, Jill. Let me not get more emotional than I am. The Reverend Dr. Sakina Young Skaggs, I love you so much. Let me tell you, when I was in my PhD program, I reached out to Sakina and talked about womanism and womanist ontology. And, I really wanted to focus on womanism and how womanism plays in ending anti-Black racism. And I have about 5 books here that she recommended for me. So yes, I tell the truth and shame the devil because of my beloveds that are on this line, including this brother right here. I am who I am, the agency of myself, to name and identify myself. Ashe, ashe, ashe. Oh. Ain't I a woman? Ain't I a human being? Ain't I beloved? Ain't I divine? Ain't I beautiful? Ain't I communal? Ain't I loving and caring and graceful and compassionate and empathetic? Ain't I all those things? And we all have a story to tell. So as we are, Brittany says, having to explain to church folk that God is in me regardless of whom I love or how I love, what I look like or who I am. Thank God for God's mercy, grace, and acceptance. Brittany, thank you for that. Thank you. So those who are listening, who feel that they are outside of the norm, you are within the norm of beloved community. Yes, you are. And as we are in the midst of Women's Her Story Month, tell your story. Women, femmes, thems. Thank you, Soul to Soul sisters. They're constantly teaching me because I'm learning. I am cisgendered, heterosexual, and So I speak from my context, but the more I learn, the more I can teach. The more I experience, the more I can teach. The more I can invite others to come in. The more I read, the more I can share. So I'm always open to love. Always open to love. So during this Women's History Month, continue to tell your story unapologetically, unashamedly. Continue to be who you be and show up and go against the status quo, go against the societal ills, go against the sexism and racism and classism and all the other isms. Because in community, we got your front, your back, your side. We're the firm foundation upon which you stand. We see ourselves in the future together. We don't need to see ourselves in the future alone. Afrofuturism is about seeing us, knowing us, loving us, and moving forward so that we can conquer those things. For in the words of Lucille Clifton, every day, won't you celebrate with me? Because every day, something has tried to kill me and has failed. I love you, beloveds. Thank you for spending this time with me. Our time is up. I look forward to seeing you. Well, I may or may not see you next Tuesday because I'll be out of the country. So we'll see. I'll let you know. It depends on the time difference and the Wi-Fi and all that. Or if I'm going to be on the beach or on an ATV or on a yacht somewhere. So yeah, the birthday celebrations continue for Dr. Tad. Yes. So I love each and every one of you. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate you. I love you. I see you. I honor you. And I thank you for taking time to build community one episode at a time. I'm out. Peace.